Massachusetts is known around the world as a leader in science, technology, and medical research. But these days, there are a lot of questions about what the future may hold for those industries, thanks to the new rules of the road under President Trump. As Christina Quinn found out, some are concerned, but for others, it's past time for a change.
Stand up for science!
On Sunday, hundreds of scientists rallied in Copley Square, concerned about the future of research under a Trump administration. They point to his cabinet picks, like Rick Perry and Rex Tillerson, who have long-standing ties with the fossil fuel industry, and his new head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Scott Pruitt, who sued that very agency 14 times while he served as Oklahoma Attorney General.
When you turn away from science-based public policies and providing information to the public, that says to scientists, you know, the work that I do isn't going to have an impact on society.
Andrew Rosenberg is director of the Center for Science and Democracy at the Union of Concerned Scientists, based in Cambridge. He's worked as a federal marine and fisheries researcher under different administrations, but he says what's happening now feels very different.
To say, well, we're not going to release any science reports unless that's vetted by political personnel. We don't want any scientists speaking out. We want to know the names of scientists who've worked on particular kinds of issues. I've never seen that before.
President Trump has pledged to cut back regulations by 75%, which many business groups say cripple industry growth by being too restrictive and costly. Meanwhile, Congress is considering a bill that would restructure how federal agencies inform their policy decisions. For some conservatives who say that science has been overly politicized, that kind of change is long overdue.
I find that there is a real loss of scientific integrity in the federal government.
Diane Katz is a policy expert at the conservative think tank Heritage Foundation. She says the federal government should scale back certain areas of science research, that too many special interests have broken the system, and that scientists shouldn't be so deeply involved at the policy-making level.
You know, much of the science that's being done by the federal government, or at least funded by the federal government, ought not to be. It ought to be done in the private sector. It ought to be independent.
MIT biology professor and cancer researcher Angelica Amen argues that it's a scientist's civic duty to be involved in how policies are made.
How can making your citizens live longer, live better, live healthier lives be not in the government's interest?
Amen is worried that the political rhetoric where facts and evidence are constantly in question is problematic, not only to the science community, but to society as a whole.
Every day of my life, I go out there and I study a particular problem. I gather data. I'm trying to establish facts. And I'm trying to get as closely as I can to the truth.
Christina Quinn joins me now. Hey, Christina.
Hi, Jim.
So there was this small, I don't mean small in a disparaging way, but relatively small demonstration. There's a big one coming up in D.C., is that right?
Right. So on Earth Day, there's actually a nationwide mobilization happening right now for the March for Science. But it's not happening just in D.C. There are cities all over the country and possibly all over the world.
When is this,
much
April?
like the Women's March. April 22nd.
April 22nd. You know, in addition to the people who are in these industries, scientists who are affected, I assume there's concern about the ability to attract foreign-born scientists, researchers at all because of this environment, yes?
Yes, that's totally correct. So Angelica Amen, who we just saw in the story, half her lab is made up of foreigners, and she's saying that she's really worried that just sort of what the current climate is, what the message that the Trump administration is sending out will really discourage foreigners from coming here. And her argument is that, you know, the best foreign researchers come here and the best ones stay. So it'll be interesting to see.
You know, one of the things I don't understand about this, and this may be naive, I understand, I'm not supporting it, I understand being a science denier if you're a politician of a certain ilk, but those same kinds of people don't want to be economy crushers. And science is not just about advancements in health and whatever, it's also about the economy, particularly in places like where we are.
Absolutely.
How do they reconcile those two, at least to me, contradictory things?
That's a great philosophical quandary,
Well, it is.
Jim.
I guess it is.
I don't have the answer to that, but, you know, it's no secret that modern science or science research is the backbone of, or, you know, integral to the backbone of the modern economy. And we don't know what the cuts will be, how they're going to play out with the Trump administration. You know, they're they're proposing some major cuts. But if we get, say, $6.3 billion comes to Massachusetts in federal funding, and say 20 to 30% of that is cut, you know, how's that going to play out? So,
exactly. And you have a president and a Republican Party that say they care deeply about the economy,
right,
even if they're dubious about some of the science.
Exactly. So I don't have an answer for you, but it'll be interesting to see how they reconcile it.
Will you text me when you do have an answer?
Totally will text
I knew
you.
you would, Christina. It's great to see you. Christina Quinn, thank you so much.